What if I told you one of Switzerland's oldest watchmakers helped shape precision history? Yet most collectors barely talk about it. That brand is Baume Mercier, a maison with roots going back to 1830 in the Swiss Jura. Not the loudest name in watchmaking, not the most hyped, but its history is far richer than most people realize. This is the story of precision trials, World Fair medals, Art Deco elegance, the Riviera, and a brand entering a new chapter today. The story begins in 1830 when Louis-Joseph Baume opened a watchmaking counter in Les Bois in the Swiss Jura. A few years later, his sons Louis-Victor and Celestine Baume formally registered the family business. Their philosophy was simple and uncompromising: accept only perfection, only manufacture watches of the highest quality. That wasn't just branding, it became the working DNA of the house. And the Baume family didn't think small. They had international ambitions from early on. By the 19th century, the company had expanded into London, opening the door to the British Empire and markets like India, Australia, and New Zealand. That mattered because Britain demanded precise timekeeping, especially for navigation, commerce, and maritime power. So Baume's rise wasn't built on decoration first, it was built on credibility. One major early contribution was the introduction of the Lapine caliber in the Jura, a movement structure that improved reliability and construction. That may sound niche today, but in the 1800s, these technical gains could define a watchmaker's future. And then came the real proof: chronometry competitions. At the Kew Observatory trials in England, among the toughest tests of the era, Baume watches performed exceptionally well. In 1887, one Baume split-seconds chronograph achieved the highest score in the competition. Then in 1892, a Baume keyless tourbillon chronometer set a record score of 91.9 points, a mark that lasted until 1903. By then, the house had also collected major recognition at world fairs, including 10 Grands Prix and 5 gold medals between 1860 and 1910. So long before modern branding, Baume had already earned something better: respect. The modern identity of the brand took shape when William Baume met Paul Mercier in 1912. William brought watchmaking discipline and family legacy. Paul Mercier brought design instinct, business skill, and artistic vision. Most watch stories end here, but this one is just beginning. Follow HorologyGuide because the real breakthroughs are still ahead. Their alliance began in 1918, and in 1920 they formally founded Baume and Mercier in Geneva. This partnership fused technical seriousness with a passion for beauty, and that balance still defines the brand today. Very quickly, the new house earned one of Swiss watchmaking's highest distinctions, the Geneva Seal, in 1919. And that mattered because it confirmed Baume and Mercier wasn't just stylish, it was serious. As the wristwatch era evolved, Baume and Mercier embraced elegance, proportion, and changing tastes. In the 1930s and 1940s, the maison became associated with refined shaped watches and jewelry-influenced designs. One historic highlight often mentioned is the Marquise of 1948, a model tied to the brand's elegant mid-century personality. Then the 1950s leaned back toward chronographs and small complications. A reminder that refinement and mechanics could coexist. Baume and Mercier was never only about raw technical dominance. Its real strength was making serious watchmaking feel elegant and wearable. That identity sharpened further in 1964, when the brand adopted the phi symbol, a sign of proportion, balance, and harmony. A few years later, in 1971, Baume and Mercier entered the electronic era with the Tronasonic tuning fork watch. But the real icon arrived in 1973, the Riviera. With its dodecagonal bezel and steel sport elegance, the Riviera helped redefine what luxury could look like in the 1970s. Even today, the brand frames the Riviera as a design that changed watchmaking codes when it launched. Through the late 20th century and into the 21st, Baume and Mercier built a reputation for accessible Swiss luxury with genuine heritage. The Hampton, launched in 1994, became the brand's rectangular Art Deco-inspired modern signature. The Clasima offered classical elegance, while the Clifton pushed a more vintage-inspired round watch identity. Then came a major technical statement, the Baumatic. Baume and Mercier presents the Baumatic as a modern flagship movement with a 5-day power reserve, resistance to everyday magnetic fields, strong precision, and long-term durability. The brand also ties that movement to an extended 8-tier warranty, underlining its confidence in modern reliability. Today, the official collections include Riviera, Clifton, Classima, Hampton, and the newer Joja line. Recent official releases also show the Maison refreshing key pillars, like the Riviera 73, new Classima models, and New Hampton references, but the biggest recent development is corporate. In January 2026, Richemont and Damiani Group announced an agreement for Damiani to acquire Baume and Mercier. The deal is expected to close in summer 2026, with Richemont providing operational support for at least 12 months after closing. Why this happened? For years, Baume and Mercier lived in a difficult middle ground. Heavy discounting and soft resale weakened the luxury aura. Even though the Maison still had real substance, deep heritage, and technically strong pieces like the Baumetic, the high-performance in-house movement, inside Richemont, its accessible positioning left it overshadowed by Cartier IWC and Jaeger LeCoultre. So the 2026 sale to Damiani feels like a reset, one built on stronger visibility, jewelry, synergy, and selective boutique expansion. So Baume and Mercier isn't fading away. It's entering a new chapter, and that could make the next few years especially interesting. What makes Baume and Mercier worth remembering is not hype, it's balance, precision, and taste, heritage and wearability. Serious watchmaking without unnecessary noise. From Jura workshops and Q observatory records to Art Deco design and modern steel sport elegance, this is a brand with real substance. And maybe that's why Baume and Mercier remains one of Swiss watchmaking's most underrated names. Its legacy was never only about one model, one era, or one trend. It was built across generations through precision trials, elegant forms, technical discipline, and a deep respect for proportion and beauty. While others chased spectacle, Baume and Mercier built something quieter, more balanced, and in many ways, more enduring. And that quiet confidence may be exactly what makes the brand so compelling today. If you've ever owned a Baume and Mercier, or even considered one, we'd love to hear your story. What drew you to the brand? And do you think it gets the credit it deserves today? If you enjoyed this deep dive, subscribe to HorologyGuide, because the best watch stories aren't always the loudest ones.